Hi, I'm Chrissy Perky, and this is Safe Sanctuary Training. Wanted to take a minute and say thank you for coming to our class today. We know that our ministries would not be able to function without you, and we appreciate that you heard the call to serve and that you're here. We know that this is not going to be one of the most fun-filled, exciting, uplifting classes that you take this year, but it may be one of the most important ones. Why Safe Sanctuary? Safe Sanctuary is a policy that we've adopted to help keep our youth, our children, our vulnerable adults, their families, our church, and you, our volunteers, in a safe environment. We want to show God's love to our children by showing them that a place where they will be free of physical abuse, emotional abuse, and spiritual abuse, where they can grow. The Methodist Church adopted this policy several years ago. This is what it looks like. A lot of legalese, a lot of words, but we're going to break it down and make it a little bit easier to understand. One of the things that we're going to do first is I'm going to go over some definitions so that you'll know when you hear something, you'll know what we're talking about. And some of these definitions are of words that you might not hear during the training, but you may during the course of the year. So the first is a child is somebody from the age that they're born until they reach age 12. A youth is somebody who is age 12 to their 18th birthday. And a vulnerable adult is somebody who's over 18 who possesses a physical or a mental disability or dysfunction that impairs their ability to provide adequately for their own care without assistance, including but not limited to the inability to independently or effectively communicate, or the ability to independently remove themselves from a situation, or a location, or they're unable to remove themselves from a location or another's abusive sexual behavior, or physical mistreatment upon one person to another. And because of their dysfunction or infirmity, the individual has an impaired ability to protect themselves from maltreatment. Abuse is intentional, negligent, or reckless behavior by a volunteer or a staff person that is harmful, injurious, or offensive. Abuse takes many forms and includes, but is not limited to, physical abuse, neglect, self-neglect, abandonment, verbal and emotional abuse, financial exploitation, sexual abuse, involuntary seclusion, and wrongful restraint. Child abuse is an act committed by anyone which is not accidental and which harms or threatens a child's physical or mental health or a child's welfare. Physical abuse is when an adult injures a child other than by an accident, including but not limited to assault, battery, shaking, slapping, burning, scalding, kicking, or strangling. Sexual abuse is any sexual contact or sexually explicit behavior initiated by an adult, a youth or a child towards another child, non-consensual sexual contact, or non-consensual sexually explicit behavior initiated by a youth towards another youth, included but not limited to sexual harassment, and any sexual behavior by a youth towards another youth younger than 14 and where the initiating youth is 3 years older. Any sexual contact by anyone outside a recognized committed intimate relationship towards a vulnerable adult, or any sexual explicit behavior by anyone towards a vulnerable adult where the vulnerable adult is unable to provide a meaningful consent. Emotional abuse is verbal assault or emotional cruelty. Activities is any activity or program in which the children, youth, or vulnerable adults are under supervision of staff persons or volunteers. Background checks, researching references for records for indications of past or potential abuse and or criminal activity. Conference is the Oregon-Idaho Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. Person in charge, or PIC, is a staff person or a volunteer who is the person responsible for the activity or event. Prevention and risk reduction. Risk reduction are those actions taken to lessen opportunity for sexual assault. Most policies focus exclusively on risk reduction and do very little to prevent sexual abuse in the broader community. Hillview United Methodist Church is committed to not only lessening risk within the congregational facilities and activities, but we are also committed to prevention of abuse by transformational ministry to survivors, justice equity ministries, and social change. We recognize that understanding the difference between prevention and risk reduction is an important step in developing effective prevention strategy. Sexual contact means touching of the sexual or intimate parts of another person or causing that person to touch the sexual or intimate parts of the aggressor for the purpose of arousing or gratifying the sexual desire of either party. Regarding children, youth, and vulnerable adults, sexual contact includes but is not limited to kissing, hugging, massaging, rubbing, blowing on, or breathing on, or touching with any intent by anyone to sexually arouse any person. We reserve the right to evaluate any such behaviors and provide guidelines to prevent abuse and protect each person. Sexually explicit behavior is an actual or simulated behavior and remains a common form of harassment and abuse. It includes but is not limited to words, gestures, sexting, media representations of sexual activity, jokes, nudity or partial nudity, and other behaviors. A staff person is any person employed by the local ministry setting on an ongoing basis, and especially anyone who is employed, who is responsible for activities involving children, youth, and vulnerable adults. A volunteer is a person who assists in conducting activities under the supervision of persons in charge. And we are Hillview United Methodist Church. So we need to talk a little bit more. That's the definitions of the different words that you may hear or either today or later on. So kind of get an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. National statistics on child abuse indicate that about 25% of Christian homes witness abuse of some kind. In our country, 681,000 children are abused annually. 4 children die every day as a result of child abuse. Of that, 80% of them are under the age of 4. 54% of abusers are women. 46% of the homeless youth have run away from home to escape abuse. And abused children are 25% more likely to experience teen pregnancy. There is a study that indicates 38% of women and 16% of men were molested before the age of 18. And only 5% of child sexual abuse has been reported to law enforcement. This same study reveals that 93% of abusers identify themselves as religious. In recent years, we've heard about the abuse that happened in the Catholic Church. We've heard about priests that abuse their power and church leadership that turned a blind eye. The thing is, it's not just the Catholic Church that's been in the news. A few years ago, the Methodist Church took a big hit in Britain, as it was found that over 2,000 incidents of child abuse had gone unreported, spanning 30 years, and involving over 900 victims. Churches are often targeted by child abusers and molesters, so we need to take extra precautions, making sure that all the workers and volunteers with access to or contact with children, our youth, and our vulnerable adults have passed a background check at least once every 5 years and complete our Safe Sanctuary training that will include child abuse awareness and prevention every year. The training includes the behavioral and physical signs that indicate the potential presence of child abuse. The background check includes a criminal history, sexual predatory history, social security number check, and address history, and the information obtained will not be made available to the applicant and can be kept for a period of up to 50 years. Every adult who works with our children, our youth, and our vulnerable adults must also agree to follow Safe Sanctuary training and the policies, and they are aware that their certification can be revoked or suspended if it's not followed. We recognize that working with our children, our youth, and our vulnerable adults is a privilege. It is not a right.